motor racing. To most, it's a sport with just one goal: winning. But to a few, it's an experiment in technology, a way of finding new limits, a way of testing under conditions you could never simulate in a laboratory. The rewards aren't checkered flags or trophies, but information. It was to gain this information that the decision was made to race in world endurance and IMSA competition, not on racing tires, but on experimental street tires. For the experiment, the cars would be devices for engineers to study extremes. The drivers, test pilots. The goal, create the next generation high-performance tire. The project began at the Lola factory in Huntington, England, where a pair of GT prototypes were constructed. The power plants, race-proven Mazda rotary engines. The tire, Goodrich experimental TA radials. The team is led by driver Jim Busby, who started as a drag racer in California 25 years ago, chasing 200 miles per hour in the quarter mile.
Motor racing requires a maximum commitment from everybody. I think probably most people see my name out in front like they would a quarterback's name for a football team. However, we've got Jim Tully, who's the team manager here, who actually at trackside probably does a heck of a lot more of the coordinating. By the time I get to trackside, I largely become just a driver.
We started off with these cars as a tire development program where you go and test the cars and you make changes on the car and you make changes in the tires. That's very interesting from my point of view.
When you're testing, you're looking for limits. If you find one and exceed it before you're ready for it, you can have big problems.
Very few people like testing. They actually like racing. I prefer testing.
In the first outings with these tires and trying to stay with the street construction, we had some vibration problems that were shaking the car to pieces, shaking me to pieces, and it took some very clever engineering to cure it, and it took about 3 test sessions. There was one point there I remember thinking, I wonder if it can be done. And they did it.
They were a group of BFGoodrich passenger tire engineers, headed by Chuck Patrick.
Well, these tires will meet all of the requirements of the U.S. Department of Transportation. As a matter of fact, the treaded versions carry a full DOT certification and serial number. Well, we're looking for the extremes, and unfortunately, you can control things, but you can't control the extremes in handling, temperature generation, and durability. And you got to go to the track to learn that.
After 3 months and 3,000 test miles, Jim Tully and the crew were ready for their first real competition, the 24 hours of Daytona.
When we first started on this program, a little bit with our eyes knowing what to expect until the first race. 616 of Busby, Hagee, and Knutson. Starting driver, Jim Busby.
Gentlemen, start your engines. Daytona was also the first chance for Chuck Patrick and BFG engineers to see just how their tires would perform against pure racing rubber.
There's no question that they would do better if they had pure race tires. But these guys are good drivers, they know the car and they know the tires, and they'll give us the feedback that we need as a part of this test program. They're just not out here to win races. These guys are part of that extension of our laboratory. These are test drivers.
Competing directly against the faster Porsches, Marches, and Jaguars, the BFG Lolas begin a relentless charge through the field, working their way up to second and third overall. The cars that were created as test labs could be headed for victory in their first outing. But endurance racing can be a cruel sport, where months of hard work can turn sour in an instant. The strain in Daytona's high backing has caused the chassis to flex, damaging a gasket in the engine. The front-running Busby Knoop Haya BFG Lola is forced into the pits. The problem can't be fixed, and car 67 must retire.
These guys are extremely talented, bright people that are working for a wage that's almost embarrassing when you count the numbers of hours that they put in, the commitment that it takes, the heartache to go 22 hours in a race and have the car drop out at the 22nd hour is just absolutely devastating. You walk away, you get your spirits up again, and you go at it again.
The streets of Miami just 3 weeks later, a sprint race and a very different test. Co-driver Rick Knoop describes the strategy.
Miami was basically a 3-hour race. In a 3-hour race, you just go like hell.
For the crew, the race is a chance to bounce back from the disappointment of Daytona.
One of the nice things about car racing is the end product is there in black and white very, very soon. You were either successful or you weren't, and 2 weeks later you're going to get another chance to be successful. There's the same pressures are involved. There's also the same opportunity to fail.
There was a lot of things going on in that particular race which would normally mean to feather, to slow down, to make the car last, and we just drove those cars flat out.
At the finish, the powerful Jaguars are first and second, but the surprising BFG Lolas are not far behind in 5th and 6th overall. Monza, Italy, the team's first taste of World Endurance C2 competition and driver Rick Knoop's first look at European racing.
I think racing is very much more cutthroat over here, mainly because there's many companies, as you can see on the logos of the cars, that have major budgets in road racing. Some of them are just frightfully fast. Sometimes these national heroes go out with a lot of flavor and a lot of color in the beginning. You see their autographs in various parts of the track. The guys that come right out of the box and dive for the first turn on the first lap. Well, those are the people that historically never make it to the end.
The BFG Lolas surprise everyone by moving up to 2nd and 4th place in C2. At the halfway mark, Busby and Knoop take the class lead.
Monza was a very good race for us. We came to Europe rather green in terms of not ever going to the track before, and to get a category win and to be 6th overall was really good.
After 6 hours, the new kids on the block crossed the finish line first in the C2 category. The next stop, 24 hours of Le Mans.